Oh, guys, as you know, I'm something of a method caster. I like to really get in the mind of the thing that I'm watching. So for today, I have for today's episode, I have not slept for 6 days, just in preparation for you goons and birds. I am hallucinating. It's fine. I do it all for you. I got a lot of birds and fairies, and I
Jason. 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 Oh, God damn
Oh, wow. What a hilarious intro. Much humor, much jokes, much haha. Welcome back, everybody, to part 3 of our exploration of 2002, the year Robin Williams set his brand of mania to evil. We have talked about Death to Smoochie. We have talked about 1 Hour Photo. And today we are talking about Christopher Nolan's Insomnia, a wicked little psychological thriller, and his long-form advertisement for Sleepy Time Tea. Starring Al Pacino, the next Karate Kid, the second best Karate Kid, Hilary Swank, and of course, our man Robin Williams. But before we get into that, I got to bring in my co-host, internationally renowned ne'er-do-well, writer, speaker, dancer, prancer, Rebecca Ann Franzel. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing good. Well rested. How are you?
How am I? You always ask me how I'm doing, and I have a microphone in my hand and headphones to hear my own voice. This is my bliss. So I'm doing wonderfully. So we are talking about, again, Insomnia, Christopher Nolan's second movie. It's his third movie if you count Following. If don't come at me, film bros. It's about a cop and his partner coming out to Alaska to solve the murder of a young woman, dealing with the incompetent police force, and also dealing with the fact that it is the sun is out for 24 hours a day. The plot, it's not a very complicated plot. There's not a lot of action. There is a lot of internal work. I don't have a lot of analysis for this film. It's one of those like really tight psychological thrillers, no meat, no frills, just like a hyper competent movie that hits everything it's trying to hit, even has a great ending. It's very much unlike a lot of Christopher Nolan movies. It has a lot of the traces of his style, but before it became overbearing, which we'll get into. But you, Becky, have never seen this movie, right?
I have never seen this movie, no.
What were your thoughts on this movie? Just like right off the bat, we just finished watching it.
I do not want to go to Alaska in the summer. 24 hours of sunlight does not seem to be good for the psyche for anybody involved. It's a common plot line that nobody is doing well.
Would you prefer 24 hours of darkness? Would that treat you any better?
I would just like a normal day. I think Alaska's off my list.
I feel like I think that would be fun for about a week.
Yeah, exactly.
My father lived when he was working in Alaska, he was there for the 24-hour darkness period, and he seemed to be having a lot of fun with it for about a month.
Yeah.
He was doing locum tenens, which is he worked for 3 months on and go somewhere else, and he was like even more insane than he actually was already by the time he got out of there. I would love to do that for like a week. I think the worst part for me would be the adjustment to the sleeping periods. I love the middle of the night, but I love the middle of the night because it's a contrast to the glaring daylight. If I didn't have that contrast, I don't think I work better in the darkness, but I don't think it would work as well.
Right.
My body would just be like, why are you doing this to me? That's the thing. It's not made for human beings. Mm-hmm. We, as human beings, insist on being places that we shouldn't
Well, and we also like cycles. Like when I was in LA, it was weird for me because I couldn't tell what time was like because the seasons didn't really happen, right?
Right.
So my sense of time was warped, and I'd imagine if you don't have days and nights, your sense of time would be warped, and that would amplify any sort of sleep deprivation or too much sleep or whatever.
Right. And to that point, so the whole point of this movie is that Al Pacino plays Detective Dormer, and he is like a celebrated cop. He's written some books, but he's coming under fire from IA. So him and his partner are like running away to Alaska to go help an old buddy. And he is not taking the sunlight very well. Over the course of the movie, he doesn't sleep in any way, shape, or form, and it continues to like haunt him and eat him from the inside out. And the nature of his sin starts coming to the surface.
Mm-hmm. The rot festers.
Yeah, the rot that was already there.
Mm-hmm.
Because essentially what happens is they end up on the guy's trail, the person who murdered the young woman, and they track him to this cabin in the woods trying to trap him. And in the foggy mess, Dormer's partner gets shot. And he gets shot by Dormer. And it tries to play it off like it's some kind of accident. But over the course of the film, it kind of feels like he might have done it on purpose. And he becomes just kind of unhinged.
And whether that's just because he's severely sleep deprived and questioning everything, or because that's actually was his intention, we don't really know.
And I think that's what's so interesting about this movie is that, and we'll get into the Robin Williams of it, the actual villain of it in a second here, but there's not really a good guy. Everyone seems corrupt in their own way, except for, and this is rare for a Christopher Nolan movie, for there to be a woman, an empowered woman with actual agency and actual depth who doesn't serve as just like a catalyst for the actions of the men. Because Nolan has the same problem that Michael Mann does. When he writes a movie and directs a movie, the women in his movies are usually written simply to be drivers for the men, to bug the obsessed, competent men, and to like be a force against them, even though they love them. They're generally shallow.
I have a counter to that.
Even when they're good, like let's say Emily Blunt and Oppenheimer,
mm-hmm.
It's still as an opposition. It's to drive Oppenheimer's goals and actions. She doesn't actually have her own arc. Her arc is just Oppenheimer. But in this, what is her name? Ellie Burr, played by Hilary Swank, the next Karate Kid. The second best Karate Kid,
mm-hmm.
behind Jaden. She is obsessed with Al Pacino's character. And over the course of this, that starts to wear away. But she's actually the only one doing any real work putting this case together because Dormer's doing his best to like keep himself sane. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Counter?
I would argue that we don't really know enough about her for her to be like her own standalone character. Like, if Al Pacino did not exist in this movie, right, her character would fall apart.
I disagree. I think that she would be the only one who actually puts any pieces together.
But would it be a movie?
Well, that's not... If you remove characters from films, would they be movies? If you remove characters, like, that's...
But I feel like Dormer could exist without Hilary Swank, but Hilary Swank could not exist without Dormer.
But she was already existing as the only competent cop in that town.
For sure, but it wasn't movie-worthy because the movie starts when Dormer appears.
Right. Well, the movie starts because Robin Williams' character...
Yeah.
We'll sidetrack this conversation for a second. It exists because he murdered somebody.
Right.
In a town where murders don't happen.
Right.
Abuse happens. Corruption happens.
Just the boring shit, you know?
As they mentioned quite a few times, nothing really happens there.
Yeah.
But murder like this doesn't happen, especially like ritualistic murder as this one seems to be.
Right.
The body is meticulously cared for, cleaned up, placed in a very specific location to be found.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what drives the plot. The only reason Dormer is there is because he had a buddy on the force that moved to Alaska and asked for help with this.
Right.
Now, I will say that Ellie is obsessed with him because he wrote books and She was obsessed with cases that he
Well, and she did all of her case studies on Dormer cases.
Right.
When she was training.
She is a cop. She's a competent cop. It could be said that she's a competent cop only as a result of his instruction passively. By reading his case studies, by studying his techniques, she became a better cop. But she became an even better cop figuring out that he's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Almost at his insistence, though. I know we're trying to jump around the plot here, but there's a point here where she's like, here's the paperwork. This is how we do it here. And he's like, cross your T's and X your Y's or whatever. You got
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. Well, I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying is like without Dormer's character, I don't think she would have had the arc, right? Because the arc happened on his insistence that she look into it deeper.
Yes. And she almost gives in. There's a point, I won't tell you it because you should watch it, but also it's a 20-year-old movie, but where she almost becomes like him, and he insists that she does not,
right?
In a very actually powerful scene.
Right.
But my point is that in terms of Christopher Nolan films, she has a more complete arc than women usually get in his movies.
Oh, so you're saying on the Christopher Nolan scale versus the movies in general?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm saying as a Christopher Nolan film, I find this to be an interesting Christopher Nolan film because it lacks a lot of his style. There's a lot of his style, but not a lot of his influence.
Yeah.
This is just it's based on a Norwegian film from 1998 starring one of my favorite Skarsgårds, if I had a favorite Skarsgård, the elder Skarsgård, Stellan Skarsgård.
Ah, yes. Senior
father
Skarsgård.
to Alexander and...
the William Skarsgård, the Bill Skars.
Bill Skarsgård, yes. But this is not a movie that he wrote. And so it's a fascinating movie in his portfolio because he had just made Memento, which was very... excessively Christopher Nolan. That's how he made his mark, which is a remarkable mess of a movie that I love and hate in equal measure. But it was cost $5 million and made $50 million at the box office at a time when you could do that. And they handed him this adaptation, and it has a lot of his style, but it doesn't have a lot of his script flourishes, which again is women written to be in service of the men of the plot. And so she has an arc, period. And she has agency and she does a lot of investigating and she's a primary part of the plot, which I think is very, not very Christopher Nolan-y. But it does have his flourishes throughout it does play with time a little bit. It shows scenes at the beginning that don't get explained later. A lot of extreme close-ups. If you're looking for his most aggressive stylistic choice is always like the slow dolly zoom inside of a tight hallway. That's like his thing. And because it's clear there's not a lot of those locations in where they're shooting, there's this alley scene where Pacino's character Dormer shoots a dead animal for some manipulation shenanigans, and he shoots it from like no less than 4 different angles, slowly pulling in on him, slowly pulling in on him, slowly pulling it on, because you could tell he's just itching to get it done.
You know that he like circled around this town and was like,
yeah,
that's the alley.
Yeah. A lot of that over the shoulder into the doorway shots that he's so known for. There's a lot of his style, but it's not excessive, and it's in service to making a competent movie that shows the people that paid for it that he knows how to make movies, because he hadn't quite come into his own as Christopher Nolan as we know him now. Because his next movie would be Batman Begins, and then he would make The Prestige, and then he would make The Dark Knight, and then we are in the Nolan-verse. Not very good at shooting action still, but it works in this movie because it's meant to be confusing. But we're all working up to why are we talking about this? What's the point of us talking about Insomnia? And it is our guy, it is our man, the man of the year, Robin Williams, who he's so creepy.
Yeah,
he's so creepy when he puts it into this. After watching Death to Smoochie and watching 1 Hour Photo, what did you think of Walter Finch, who was the bad guy in this movie?
Well, I think this one is interesting because he explains his logic, right? He explains why it happened. And it all comes from this deep root of not being accepted, right? Which everyone can relate to.
Right.
But it's that dark twist of like, oh, but I wouldn't have done that though. Holy shit. So you're with him, and then you're like, holy shit, no.
There is kind of a similarity to Psy a little bit.
Yeah.
He's got more of a life.
Yeah.
It is interesting going through these three movies and how they kind of fit into the evil alignment scale. Like Death to Smoochies, Rainbow Randolph was like chaotic evil.
Yeah.
Kind of a maniac devoted only to the bottom line and fucking over every man, woman, and child he could to get there.
Right.
Psy, the photo guy, is kind of a neutral evil, quietly terrifying guy who isn't mean to anybody, but he's like quietly stealing the memories of people he's serving to kind of pretend to be them and be around them.
Yeah.
And this guy's more of a lawful evil where he like follows the law and he pays his taxes and he owns property.
Right.
And he kind of
Accomplished author.
an accomplished author. He's got fans. Like people know of him and they think he's just a nice guy. And deep down, there's like this desperation for friendship that's a little like Psy's. And he like tries to be friends with Dormer.
Yeah.
He thinks that...
Well, he keeps talking about the storyline. So in his head, you know that he already has the ending set, right?
Right.
And he keeps talking about like, oh, this would be a really good twist, right? Oh, this would be a really good... So he's always thinking about the framing versus like what's actually happening.
He's treating Dormer like a character in a story that he's writing, and Dormer is just losing his goddamned mind.
Right, and his eyes go dark as soon as something he doesn't expect happens, right? Because it's not in his script. It's not in his plotted out story. He's clearly a planner, not a pantser.
I'm sorry, what is that?
If you're a writer, there are people who outline the shit out of their books, and they're called planners, versus a pantser, which is more like me, where you're just like,
Live is at the seat of...
Yeah, you're just kind of like write as you go, and you figure it out, and then you plot it out at the end. Yeah.
He is a person who definitely mapped it out, which is why he ends up... That's his explanation for why he committed the crime that he committed.
Yeah.
He's never been in trouble with the law. He's again, a law-abiding citizen, but somebody, a young woman that he was clearly attracted to and trying to save.
And giving a bunch of weird gifts to. Like he gave her like a heart necklace, and you're like, I'm already not on your side. That's fucking weird.
There is it's very clever how they kind of piecemeal out his motivations, because early on when he explains it, he just kind of, you almost sympathize. You're like, as he explains that it was an accident, I didn't mean to, it was just kind of a thing. You kind of get the impression that maybe they had a relationship and she was into him and he was into her, and then maybe something happened. That's not what happened.
Not at all.
She laughed at him. She made him feel silly. She made him feel less than.
But most importantly, made him feel silly when he was going in for a first kiss, when he is like a 50-year-old man and she's like 17.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. That was the move. He was getting in for the move because he thought there was something there. When she was like, this is my mentor.
Right.
And he is taking care of me. He's saving me from my abusive boyfriend.
And granted, like, there's the argument of like, oh, why was she there? Oh, she's a child. So, I mean... The adult should be the adult in the room, and the child should be the child.
I mean, that power dynamic is so common.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's the problem we talk about with professors and students all the time.
Right.
Where it's like you are the intelligent person who holds you hold the key to the gate of knowledge for these young, impressionable people, and they are impressed with your knowledge, and then you take advantage of that.
Right.
And that's what this is. It's very clear that even though he's had literary success, and it's clear that he owns property and land and all these, and like has the life of an adult, he's never been an adult.
Right.
And Dormer, for all his time in L.A., has never faced a criminal like this before. And they actually become buddies because...
Weirdly, though, like a trauma bonding buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Dormer needs to hide what's actually happening. He's trying to manipulate the circumstances so he doesn't get caught. But Finch had seen him, saw what happened, and he chips away at this guy's confidence about what actually happened.
Right.
Is the killer telling me that he saw a thing to blackmail me because he actually saw it, or is he manipulating me by saying he saw something he didn't see? And this man who's not sleeping has no idea what's going on.
Right. And it less and less as time goes on.
Right.
Right.
Man, Robin Williams is just so good. He's just his explosiveness. And again, on this scale that we watch in Death to Smoochie, he's on the entire time. Literally the entire time. He is freaking out. In 1 Hour Photo, he's only freaking out half the time. He's
It's
quiet,
way more control.
but controlled and violent, and like there's a little humor there. He does feel a little bit of joy. There's like, even if it's like a terrifying kind,
Right.
and then he explodes. And this one, he is quiet and manipulative and in control almost the entire time, until Dormer's basically had enough. The
Right.
scene in like the beginning of the third act where there's an interrogation and Finch has come in and he's lying to the interrogators, and Dormer loses his shit, and then so does Finch. It's great.
Right. But again, that goes back to like, because it went against his plan, because he had already plotted it all out and how it's supposed to go. Even if he's trying to make it look like he's just on the seat of his pants, everything is so plotted.
Right. Because he told Dormer what he was going to do, and Dormer, to his quote unquote credit, was like, I can't listen to this asshole anymore.
Right.
It is disgusting.
Right.
It's not even worth it if I get caught. Like it's not even worth it for me not to get caught.
Right.
I can't listen to this asshole anymore. So their little cat and mouse thing kind of forms the structure of the movie. Again, not a lot of action. It's front loaded with action. Like there's the chase scene in the woods when they trap him, and then there's this really well crafted, well choreographed fight that's so very specific to that area across some logs, which is terrifying.
Oh my God, when he couldn't get up to breathe. Oh my God, that's my biggest fear. I had to like look away.
I think that's what's so interesting about watching like an LA land-bound cop trying to figure his way around that area, because there's obstacles he would never face where he was at. And climbing across logs that are slamming into each other that Finch had expertly navigated. That was terrifying, actually. I was literally gasping watching that again. And I've seen this movie a lot. I've watched it quite a few times. It's one of my quiet little favorites.
Well, I mean, even the fog scene, too, where Finch just right? And doesn't get shot at all and just sees everything because he knows the terrain.
Right.
Right?
Confusion is basically the theme of the movie. Internal, external. Nobody knows what's going on.
Except for the plotter.
Except for Ellie, too. The thing about what I like watching about her is that she's resisting understanding what's happening because of her affection for the people involved. But it starts to eat at her. The fact that she has somebody that she respects, that respects her in her presence, makes her understand the lack of respect she's getting from her peers.
Right.
Her looking at the map and listening to his explanations about what happened and knowing damn well that's not what happened, but trying to give him a pass. She is the only one who's actually writing the story properly. She understands.
Yeah, she's the editor of the story, right?
Yeah. She's the one putting the pieces together competently. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she is the only one. That's why I love watching. I miss Hilary Swank. Where's Hilary Swank been?
Probably relaxing.
Yeah. She's very
She did
good.
a lot.
She's very good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she got an Oscar, I think, for $1 Million Baby. I can't remember if she did, but if she did, like, just call it a day.
Yeah.
She was also, what's her most recent work was refusing to be on Cobra Kai.
Good for her.
Yeah. Because her Karate Kid movie isn't great, but it does have Walton Goggins in it.
That man just shows up. Shows up.
Shows up and shows out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so strange watching this thing as a proto-Nolan movie because it just, not too loud, hyper-competent women characters, very easy to follow plot. It's not complicated.
Right.
The psychological thriller part of it is happening right before you. There's nothing confusing about it. There's no time shenanigans. There's no flipping back and forth between timelines. There's no. It's just pretty straightforward.
I mean, and that is super interesting too, because when Finch is talking about why he did it, there's that disconnect of him being so in control of the plot he's telling, but it's still so fucking unheard of that you're like, no. And it's weird hearing somebody tell a story that calmly.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Well,
I think that's what makes it eerie, is because it's clear that he's practiced this story so many times. So there's clear clearly something he's not saying, right? What he's telling you is what he wants you to see. And what he wants you to see is still fucking horrifying.
He doesn't have any clue how horrifying he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
He keeps trying to explain that it was, again, just an accident.
Right.
And I was just trying to take care of her.
Right. Blacked out.
And
He said, yeah.
And it's just a thing that happened. And you get it, right? When people humiliate you, you just react and la, la, la. And it's like, no, I wouldn't react like that. But it almost comes off like this is the most exciting thing that has ever happened to him. Mm-hmm. And he's reveling in it until it, like you said, he loses control of that plot. Like he now has the opportunity to take his fictional world and bring it into the real world.
Right.
And write the story that he's always been dying to write. If only this guy would go along with what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
There's a conversation they have on the ferry. Like, he's always one step ahead.
Right. Well, that's because he knows the terrain. Again, it goes back to...
He knows the terrain, and like you said before, he knows the story.
Right.
He's like... He brings up in the middle of this conversation the concept of the wild card. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, we should come up with a wild card. And he'd already prepared that. He recorded it. He had already... When Dormer, he plants a gun in his house to frame him, to have one step ahead of him. Man already found it. Man already planted it somewhere else. Man already figured out who he was going to frame. He's always one step ahead.
Which, to be fair, Dormer did not do a good job hiding it. He didn't put the screws back in the fucking vent. Come on, man.
Well, he hadn't slept for 5 days. Yeah, he's not.
Come on, Dormer, why aren't you on?
He's not doing great.
Yeah.
And I think this might be one of Al Pacino's like last really excellent performances.
Yeah.
I don't know when he figured out that his guy had stolen all his money and he was just taking parts to fill his bank account. Mm-hmm. But there's like this last gasp of truly competent performances, and this is one of them. He is excellent in this movie, and he's already showing age. He's already old.
Well, right, right.
He comes into it, and he's quietly competent. And he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get this. We're gonna figure it out. Mm-hmm. And as he loses sleep, he starts unraveling a little bit when his partner tells him that he's going to go to IA because there's the balance between him and Finch. Mm-hmm. He's got the story all figured out. He knows exactly how the story is supposed to go. He just needs people to come along with him.
Right.
And his partner is not going to. And it completely throws his whole thing off.
Right.
So that when the next scene happens, you're like, did he do it on purpose or not?
Right.
His inability to think straight after a couple of days of not sleeping, why he didn't buy sleeping pills, why he didn't, again, drink some fucking tea or something. He makes no attempt to solve his problem.
Well, that was the interesting thing about Hilary Swank's line is she had the one line that was like, well, either a cop can't sleep because they're missing something or because they're a bad cop is essentially what she said.
Their conscience.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a quote from him.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. That's what I find interesting about how she unravels him is that he had already written the stories necessary to create myth making for cops,
right? For
a cop,
right?
And that is what she uses. It is a movie about storytelling and how we shatter our myths. Every single character has their own version of the myth and the story they're trying to tell, and all of their illusions get shattered.
Right.
And she uses his myth making as a way of unraveling, because she figures something out based on a case study of a thing that he did years ago.
Right.
Real clever use of a storytelling device. All of their stories unravel, including hers. Hers is she loved this guy, best cop she's ever known, mythological status. She figures out she's just a bum. He's a bum with a badge who's done some good things.
Well, right, and it almost drives her to lie, which is her biggest cardinal sin, right?
Well, yeah, and I think that's maybe his saving grace is that he convinces her not to. Mm-hmm. Again, not going to mention what scene we're talking about here because it's important, but yeah, she's about to cover for him because at the end of the day, he did help her find this guy.
Right.
And he's like, please don't do that.
Right.
Don't let it rot you.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to assume that after that, she became a better cop.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Fingers crossed.
But whatever that means in the context of where they are.
Right.
Because will she ever have a chance to demonstrate that kind of investigational acumen again?
Honestly, when they said we don't get a lot of murders up here, I was like, really?
I wouldn't think there'd be a lot of murders there because there's not a lot of people. They're all occupied with jobs. A lot of people are there as journeymen and
Right.
rain just to do like a fishing expedition or like a 6-month job of some kind.
Right.
Or to hide away in a cabin and write. Like, there's not a lot going on there. The crime they do have is they do have violence
Yeah.
and corruption, but they don't have, like, murder is a step beyond what they're used to.
Right. I'm
Murder is
surprised
like
because of like the sunlight thing and the moonlight thing. I would assume that there would be a little bit more volatility.
I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't have the charts. I don't have like a big Trumpian chart in front of me.
That's a huge bummer. I expected you to be a complete expert on Alaskan.
But I'd be curious to know what it's like at night.
Yeah.
But still, it's the same people though. And so what I imagine is,
yeah.
I have to imagine people get drunker,
Mm-hmm.
people get more aggressive, angry, violent, but do they murder each other?
Right.
That's maybe a step too far, and that may be a sign of a more compressed civilization.
Well, smaller society means you don't have as much,
Right. You can nip that in the bud before it happens. People have
Mhm.
aggression and anger,
Mm-hmm.
but do they have murderous intent?
Right.
And even Finch had lived there for a long time and hadn't murdered anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He just
That we know of.
that we know of. I do wonder if he had committed more crimes, if he had done this before, but it was clear that he hadn't. It was, I think it was made clear in the movie that he hadn't, that this was kind of a first thing, a quote unquote accident. But would he have continued? I think so. If he got caught, he would have done it again and again instead. He loved
Clearly, he reveled in it.
He loved.
He was clearly working out a storyline as this was going on, right?
Yeah. And he probably, what I think would have happened is he would have written a book about it.
Yeah.
And people would have been like, what?
Very Johnny Depp. Yeah.
This
is a secret window.
Yeah. Very, I'm currently playing Alan Wake 2 right now. That's kind of the plot, is that he writes stories that come alive, and he keeps finding a manuscript for a book he hasn't written that tells him what's happening next. Because
I love that plot.
it's so good, and it's so convoluted I couldn't explain it here. Guys, Remedy Games. But this is it's a plot like that without any supernatural elements. I think this is a very interesting and a clever plot that has a lot of like under the surface author.
It's the stories we tell ourselves versus the stories that are written versus the story.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Exactly that. So I wonder if if Ellie would have caught him eventually without Dormer, because even if he didn't get caught, he would be desperate to get caught.
Oh,
he's the kind of guy like the BTK killer who loved taunting the police, and only got caught because he didn't realize that stuff can be traced now, because he used to just write them letters and.
Well, wasn't it like genealogy testing or something?
Not for the BTK killer.
Or that was like a sample in his garbage can or something?
Not that guy.
Oh.
BTK got caught because he decided he wanted to taunt them again with letters.
Of course he did. What a fucking narcissist.
Right. Because back when he was originally in operation in the 70s and 80s, you could get away with that.
Right.
And then he didn't realize that you couldn't get away with that anymore. He wasn't following technology, and that's how they caught up with him.
That's so stupid.
Finch would have become that guy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I think that Ellie would have maybe found him. On the other hand, would the rest of the police there allowed her to catch him? Would they have dismissed it out of hand?
Do you think she would have been motivated without Dormer? I think part of her motivation came from trying to impress Dormer.
What do you think would have happened with that investigation had they not been invited out there?
It probably would have fallen on its face, and they would have been like, oh my God, who knows? Or it would have landed on some kids, like her boyfriends.
They would have, because they already thought it was him.
Yeah, they already arrested him. Yeah.
Well, they arrested him because he set him up.
But I guarantee he would have
already set him up.
Yeah. They wouldn't have followed up with it, right?
And that kid deserves what's coming to him, but he doesn't deserve to get arrested for murder.
That is the interesting thing about this movie. The question of morality, like, is a heinous act worth it if what happened before was heinous as well, right? So, like, putting her boyfriend in jail, even if it's wrong, is it worth it because he's a bad person, right? And that's introduced with Dormer, the reason that Dormer is psychologically tormented too, right? Like, was his act worth it? Because does the ends justify the means, or does it not, right?
I mean, if we're looking at it objectively, you mean killing his partner?
No, I'm talking about because his partner is going to expose the fact that he planted something.
He planted something, right? Was getting rid, not being exposed for planting something worth it to keep that guy in jail because he was objectively bad?
Yeah.
And the answer to that, of course, is no. Not in a truly just society. And if you look at it from an ACAB perspective, like,
oh yeah,
Dormer is an awful cop.
Yeah.
Because apparently he has to plant evidence all the time. Everything he does is manipulation of circumstances.
And it's also the assumption that he is 100% right despite what everyone else is saying. Right.
He even confesses to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That he said he had enough proof.
Right.
He said he had enough evidence. He said that he knew that the guy was guilty, but he got off on a technicality. But he had to do something to put him in jail.
Right.
But then he had to murder a man, maybe. Ugh. But he had to murder a man to keep him from being exposed to that, to keep that guy in jail. And so who's the bad guy here?
Right. And it's like the butterfly effect of making that one wrong turn, right?
Right.
And like then you have to cover up that one thing, then you have to cover up that one thing, then you have to cover up that other thing. And then that inherently makes you a bad person, right? It shows that root of that.
Right. That's why Ellie, I think, is the best character in this, the most competent character, because Dormer spends the entire time trying to make up for his one thing,
right,
while she's doing the legwork.
To be fair,
he doesn't do any investigating.
To be fair, though, you do see her Dormer moment where she almost does lie.
Right, but that's not until later.
For sure. But for her, she's a lot younger than him, right? So her path is starting now.
But she was like, that was in the context of that scene, it was a gift to him.
For sure.
She's still the only one who put any of the pieces together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Literally, like, because he spends the entire time trying to get away.
Right.
The entire time, like, buddying up to Finch. Yeah. And those two are having their little besties moment.
Which is weird. It's so weird. I can't wait for you guys to see it. Freaks. Absolute freaks.
Absolute freak shows. You know, the way Finch acts, the way Robin Williams plays him, you would be cool with him. He seems like a real nice guy you want to meet at a signing.
Until he says the thing that, oh, you understand why I had to do it, right? We've all been there. And he says just that one unhinged, like, I think everyone sat at a bar next to somebody like that, where they say that one unhinged thing and you're like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Right?
I do appreciate that Dormer, even though he's losing his mind, is also sick of Finch's bullshit eventually.
Yeah.
They're on the phone once and, like, he told him what happened. And he's explaining how, you know, what happens. It's happened to all of us. You know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm so glad to get that off my chest, Dormer. Now, you want to tell me about something? And Dormer is just like,
fuck no.
I cannot believe, like, you can see it in his eyes. I cannot believe I'm in this situation. He just hangs up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot believe I've aligned myself with this kind of cheesy evil.
Right.
It's kind of boring.
Or giddy evil.
Yeah.
Right? Like a little kid evil.
Yeah.
Amateur evil.
Just very silly.
Mm-hmm.
There is that trace of, like, he cannot believe how far he's fallen. He cannot believe in such a short amount of time how he went from being, like, the best cop.
Dormer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best cop anyone's ever known. Legendary. To taking down this one person has caused all of these events to start taking place. The dominoes have started falling on what is an illustrious career. It's almost like looking at it like through the lens of, is he the cop from Heat? Right? He's done all of this good stuff, taken down all of these people. He's the best there is, the best there was.
Mm-hmm.
And because he crossed a line this once, he's now
done.
Faced with this idea that he's going to be exposed and done, and he has to live with that.
Mm-hmm. And even though we know him intimately, right? Like, we know his inner thoughts, there is still that question of, like, is that the only time he's done that, right?
I have more sympathy for Robin Williams' character for most of it than I do Dormer.
Really? Explain.
Well, because most of the movie, like, the first 2.5 acts are, well, no, the first act is him doing the thing, and then him getting mad at his partner for having to do the right thing, and then doing the thing, and then spending the rest of that act, like, lying, manipulating, doing the thing in the alleyway, planting evidence, doing that thing.
So now he's a pro at planting evidence. So the guy's got to.
Then he's coddling, he's cozying up to Finch, and trying to manipulate him. So I don't have more sympathy for Finch's character. I don't think that what he did was right in any way, but they're the same guy, and it's basically becomes who's really they're both bad guys,
right?
And so am I looking for justice for the young woman who was killed? Not at this point. I just want them both to die.
Yeah.
I want them both to get caught. I want them both to be shuttled off. I don't think that there is much difference between the two. Dormer does get sick of his shtick. Dormer does eventually kind of do the right thing, but it's a little too late. And his ultimate sacrifice, he makes eventually. It's implied that he gets away with it because of the way mortality works.
Yeah,
but I don't have any sympathy for him, even in his most heroic acts. Yeah.
Do you think he's better than? I would argue that Dormer is better than Finch in that he sees Hilary Swank. She's Hilary Swank to me, no matter what.
Sure. Yeah.
He sees Hilary Swank start to go down the path, and instead of giddily being like, "Ooh, I recorded you. Now I have something," right? He's like, "Please don't do that." Right?
His gift to her is to clarify that he's not a good guy,
right? And
to not follow in his footsteps, no matter how you worship. Okay, fair enough. There is none of that in Finch. There is no redeeming qualities in Finch. I like how we never get an idea of whether he's I do love that line from "Oh, Finch, have you ever read any of it? Who reads this garbage?" I do. Okay, you get on that.
Yeah.
It's kind of apparently he's like Alaskan James Patterson.
Yeah, everyone knows a poet from their city who's like this.
Yeah.
Where you're like, God fucking damn it, he's here again.
He's got another book out, and people are obsessed with him. The youngest, stupidest people. It's a little bit of that same thing. It's the same theme kind of that runs through all three of those performances of his, which is guy who thinks he's special, but guy who is desperate for connection,
right? But
thinks he's special and thinks he's chosen and thinks that he deserves to be given a pass, deserves to be free of consequence, and deserves to be in the lives of these people,
right? And it's not complicated, when you get down to it. It's only complicated because of the explanations he gives. But when you look at it just on paper, it's not complicated at all.
My dude, you get AARP and you tried to make out with a high school senior and she laughed at you.
It doesn't matter.
He's an incel.
Yeah.
He's basically a 50-year-old incel who doesn't respect the people that he is supposed to be caring for.
Right.
And then thinks that he can turn it into a sexual relationship.
You're not reading the room and seeing I'm an adult here.
And just waddles them. Yeah.
Yeah. Tails all
He's not the adult in the room. And that is the common thread for all of these characters is his characters that he's played have always been variations on some kind of stunted growth.
Right.
But sometimes there's a maturity to it. And I might say that I think of Good Will Hunting. That is a man who's had an arrested developmental period, the therapist in that movie, but he still is a mature adult. He's just hurt, and he carries that hurt and trauma.
Right.
These guys are all three, Death to Smoochie, Rainbow Randolph, Cy the Photo Guy, and Walter Finch are all children who have been traumatized by their lack of connection. And they're all, again, versions of that theme. And I think it's really interesting for a person. And he didn't do this again.
Yeah.
Now he played versions. There's a World's Greatest Dad is a great movie where he plays a father who's mourning the suicide of his son and kind of exploits the kid's journals. But he doesn't play them like he did this year the way because he didn't have a Sandler-esque career where he was like, please take me seriously.
Right.
Oh, you won't take me seriously. I'm going to go back to do goofy stuff. He made conscious decisions about his career. He tried to do some dark stuff later on, but those were more conceptual, but never like these three. I think it's such an interesting year, and it's such an interesting choice for him to consciously do these parts, because no one had ever seen him like that.
It does make you wonder, we'll never know an answer to this, who he was basing these, because it's very clear that it comes from a very specific source, right?
He was basing them on him. I think that's him. I think that he was an incredibly depressed guy.
Oh, for sure. But I think when he was interviewing, he was human, right? In a way that if Sai, the photo guy, was getting interviewed, completely different, right? Like, I think he was able to identify that humanity and strip that because he could identify it, right?
Well, I think he was a brilliant enough performer and like thinker of performances and person who designs concepts in his head on the fly. I think he was smart enough to see in the way that Adam Sandler or Paul Thomas Anderson saw in Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, and wrote Punch Drunk Love and Barry Egan for Adam Sandler. I think that there is, if you're smart enough and you have enough self-awareness, you can see that or Tim Robinson in Friendship.
Yeah.
You can see that in these like aggressively humorous, violent, like there's a violence to a lot of his characters, but it's so funny and goofy and
the soundtrack, if you change the soundtrack, you'd think that any Flubber could be Sai the photo guy.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I agree.
Mrs. Doubtfire, I mean, people have already cut it like this, is a horror movie.
Yeah.
That guy is terrifying, but he plays it like a comedy. That guy has always existed.
Right.
And it exists in everybody. And I think he was smart enough to see that and wanted to try and control, because guys who are hyper aware of how people see them, I love when they try to subvert that. I think that's what's so smart about Jim Carrey and like The Truman Show.
Right.
Now, Jim Carrey has tried to go dark and try to express darkness through roles. And he's not good at darkness, but he is good at sadness and longing and desperation for attention, for connection and attention. The Truman Show, even The Majestic kind of. But, oh, God, what is the name of the Michel Gondry movie with Kate Winslet? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. He takes that kind of goofy energy and he subsumes it, and it's sad. He just wants to be reconnected with the one person who made him feel alive.
Right.
He's so good at that. And I think that every comic character has a variation of that inside of them. It's whether or not you are brave enough to explore it.
Right.
And like, again, Jim Carrey because he was so exposed, super exposed. Everyone needed to know where he was doing at all times after his huge run in 94. Adam Sandler had blown up over the last 4 years, had some of the biggest comedies, and to do something as internal as Barry Egan. And again, Tim Robinson. And we're going to have a future podcast about Friendship because I think that's a
perfect movie, I think.
A phenomenal, terrifying movie.
Yeah.
But Tim Robinson was smart enough to know that the way that his characters are perceived, I think you put it perfectly, if you turn the volume differently a little bit on his characters from I Think You Should Leave, there is a sadness, there's anger, an unbridled, uncontrolled, seething anger right beneath the surface, a sense of unfairness. So Robin Williams was really smart enough to see those characters and to understand them when those scripts came across his desk, that he was perfect to play them.
Oh, absolutely. He was perfect in this movie in the most eerie way, because I love Robin Williams, right? But in this movie, I fucking hated him. And it was like skin crawl.
Do you think that anyone else could have played that character as well?
I don't think so. No, because he does a very specific type of blank stare. That is the eeriest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like he does it when they're on the boat together, and he just looks over at him when Al Pacino doesn't respond as he expects him to, right? Right. And it's just this blank stare of like, you're not following the storyline. And I think only Robin Williams can do that in the same eerie way. Is
it because do you need a familiarity with who he is? Like, that's the thing about, I think with Death to Smoochy, that's more of a Robin Williams character. He's a transit to evil.
Yeah.
But with Sai, the subversion of the character tropes that you know Robin Williams for, are why that works so well.
Right.
1 Hour Photo would be beautiful, but it would not be the same movie with any other actor that you know for drama, like,
right,
or you know for horror. It would not work if you are not familiar with the Robin Williams persona.
Right. There's an Ozzy lyric that, for whatever reason, it makes sense in my brain. Maybe it makes sense or not. But it's when the lights go down, it's just an empty stage.
Jesus.
And like,
Christ.
right? And like, you can see it when like Sai is in the house, like just walking around the house, or when Tim Robinson is walking around the empty house he's not supposed to be in, right? Or when Robin Williams is on the boat with him and he sees that he's not following the plot line, and the story stops, right? It stops dead in its tracks as you see his eyes die.
Right.
Right?
There's a lack of, I think the side of photo guy thing is interesting because when I walk around my house, I'm intimately familiar with the parts of the house and I can connect with those pieces of the home. It's my home. This is my home.
Right.
That's not his home.
Right.
He doesn't have an actual home.
Right.
He is alienated from reality and from connection with literally anything in his life.
Right.
He sits, he places, he puts TV on, he exists, but he does not exist on a plane of reality that we know.
Right.
And that guy Finch is the same way. He followed all the rules. He has all the trappings of success, but he has no concept of connection.
Right.
He thinks he's supposed to make out with 18-year-olds.
Right.
And is humiliated when he finds out he's not. In the same way that like Rainbow Randolph thought that he was supposed to have money, he was supposed to have fame, he was supposed to have power. When he didn't have it,
well, he deserved it, and when it's taken away, that's a moral injustice.
Yeah.
This is like sometimes that's just what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of other actors who could have done this character, and it doesn't work.
Honestly, I think Tim Robinson could have done it. Now that we're talking about friendship, I think Tim Robinson definitely could have done it.
I would be curious to see Tim Robinson in a role, because to me, Tim Robinson in Friendship is a little bit like a mix between Rainbow Randolph and Barry Egan from Punch Drunk Love. But those are so close to the characters that he's already familiar with.
True.
What I like about Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo and in Insomnia is that they are like a canyon away from the character type that you know of him.
Right.
Is Tim Robinson capable of that kind of subtlety? He, I think, has a long career ahead of him, and I'm excited to see if that's possible. I know people like Kevin James. You know Kevin James from King of Queens. He was on King of Queens. He was in a bunch of Adam Sandler comedies. He was in a bunch of comedies. He was Paul Blart.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last decade or so, he has chosen to take on villainous roles. There's a movie called Becky.
Nice.
Where he's like a kidnapper, kind of a diehard character, and she has to like fight against him. And
Classic Becky.
He's good. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think he lacks the internal power to really swallow it. I don't think that he could do. He's trying, and I appreciate it. So yeah, I like it when people do this, like Uncut Gems.
What about Jordan Peele? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Jordan Peele isn't acting though.
Oh, I know, but I would like to see him in horror, right? I think he'd be really good at it.
I think like him and Zach Kreger, the guy who just released Weapons and the guy who made Barbarian, I think they're better as directors.
Okay.
I think because they have an understanding of
the suspense versus like the hanging feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he comes from the White Kids You Should Know, or
The Whitest Kids You Know.
Whitest Kids You Know. Yeah, I was thinking of You Think You Should Leave. Whitest Kids You Know.
The Whitest Kids You Know.
He comes from that kind of pedigree, so he understands direction and timing and pacing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care if I ever see Jordan Peele acting again.
I would like to see him in horror. I think it would be really interesting to see, because I think even like in Key and Peele, I think they touched on horror a little bit.
He is so good. He was really good at it. But so was
fucking good.
I don't know. Keegan-Michael Key is definitely lean towards comedy, but I would like to see him do that as well.
Yeah.
I think he was very good at playing those characters. Yeah, I love it when guys who are known for comic work lean into that kind of internal exploration of the true extent of their characters and stop being clowns.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, now that you have me thinking about it, I'd love to see Tim Robinson attempt something like that.
I think he'd be really, especially with like the dead eye stare he gives sometimes, right?
He could do Insomnia. You're right. I don't think he would do a 1 hour photo. I think that takes a guy that looks exactly like Robin Williams.
Yeah. Bland. I don't think Tim Robinson could be bland.
1 hour photo is a one of one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the other people could play them that we know, but not as well.
Right. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe it would just be different.
For sure. Back to Insomnia. Insomnia, it's just good.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things like now if a movie like this would be, I mean, this is definitely the kind of movie, like this is the kind of movie when we say they don't make them like this anymore and they don't release these kind of movies in theaters anymore. This is this is what I'm talking about. This is what you lose during streaming.
Yeah.
This is the kind of movie that Apple would pay for, would get financed. It'd be in theaters for maybe 2 weeks, not make a lot of money, and they would dump it on streaming on their site, and they would maybe get some awards. But this thing cost $50 million, and it made $115 million in its run.
Right.
Like people just aren't going to theaters for stuff like this. If you look at box office over the last, well, it's kind of hard to call. When Barbenheimer happened, like those made $1 billion. But
Sinners made a shit ton too.
Sinners made a lot of money, but Superman didn't make a lot of money, and Fantastic Four didn't make a lot of money. And these are movies that are supposed to be making a lot of money. Weapons, I'm very curious to see, is maybe we're just having a shift in what our tastes are. Maybe we're going to get back to these kinds of mid-budget psychological thrillers for adults.
I think so. I think a lot of people are burned out from like the Marvel DC of it all, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that Superman didn't do well, because Superman was good, I thought, but I think we're just tired of it.
Just burned out by this point.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about what Superman, and this doesn't warrant a very long conversation on this episode, but I go back now that there's a Superman movie that I like, and I watch Man of Steel and I watch BVS, and those are superhero movies made for adults that explore how incredibly weird and awful and oppressive it would be to live with these kind of people in the world. And they were rejected out of hand. They're bad. They're not good, but they're interesting now in the face of a Superman that's actually Superman.
Well, right. Especially when you see what Superman is used as propaganda for now, right?
Well, I think that's a reason why Superman didn't do well, is that you depend on overseas stuff, and that's a distinctly American product, and people aren't too fond of a distinctly American product right now.
Right. Especially in that vein.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, an American is interjecting in global conflicts. Cool.
Oh, even if he's on the right side, I'm not sure though.
Right.
Please get out.
This thing, Christopher Nolan kind of came up at a really perfect time when people were excited to see new original films in theaters. And he had the opportunity. After this, he made Batman Begins, which I think is the best one. And after that, he made an adult thriller, The Prestige, which is a topsy-turvy, twisty, convoluted movie about magicians.
Right.
That killed at the box office. And he got to do this for his entire career. Tenet's his only real failure when it comes to box office, and COVID did that to him. So I do appreciate Christopher Nolan has never really stopped making adult movies. He makes complicated, interesting,
but not even super complicated. Like when you look at the like slice down of this plot, it's pretty simple.
Well, I guess my point for this movie is that it's not very complicated. It's the kind of like super solid steak and potatoes psych thriller that people used to just go to the movies for,
right?
And that studios used to just finance and throw out there, and it would be good, and it would finance the next thing,
right?
This is the least complicated, least convoluted, least Nolan of all of Nolan's movies, but it is hyper competent, and it showed people that he was a hyper competent director,
right?
And that's how he got the keys to the kingdom, and he's been doing his thing ever since. And I do appreciate. I don't like all his stuff. I think a lot of it is pretentious bullshit, but he does course correct when that happens, and he's continues to make solid adult movies for people who are interested in a cinematic experience.
Right.
I'm looking forward to the Odyssey.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited for that.
I thought
great.
Oppenheimer was extraordinary. I didn't want to enjoy that, and it got all of his stupid topsy-turvy timeline shit, but it's great. It's great.
Oh, it was beautiful. Yeah. I thought.
Even
the weird Einstein shit where they just condensed all of the ideas into, it's probably Einstein.
And they had him showing up like he's Yoda randomly.
Honestly, I was down for that.
Love it.
Yeah, just show him pacing all over the place. That man paces.
Yeah. But yeah, this is the kind of movie they just don't release in theaters anymore. We just don't get them. And I kind of miss that. I don't think we have the kind of aging stars that are necessary for this kind of movie. I think we got a serious dearth of that guys. Because in this movie, we got one of the ultimate that guys, Martin Donovan, who shows up in a lot of Nolan movies. But there's also a bunch of other people who's Maura Tierney's in this. A bunch of people that are like solid character actors that would show up in movies for a couple of lines, or just really comfortable that guys and that girls. And we just don't have a lot of those people anymore. showing up in our movies. I just miss this kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend it. One of the best, one of Nolan's, I think, better movies, but only because it doesn't have a lot of Nolan stuff, but it has his style in it.
Right.
Robin Williams, one of Al Pacino's last great roles before he became like an aggressive little gnome. Although he did show up in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he's really good in that. But it's not the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just love it. I love it.
And you should too.
Yeah. What do you think? You mean your final thought?
Oh yeah, I think it's beautiful, and I think it's a really interesting dissection on what, like, the questions of what's moral and what's not, and what to do to get to the moral, what you think is the moral means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to our 3-part series to this episode and the rest of our episodes about Robin Williams in the year 2002. In this, the month of the anniversary of his death, we still mourn him. We still miss him. There's still a gaping hole in cinema and TV and entertainment without him. Yeah, miss him. Never let his memories die, man. He was one of the best. I think that's it. Coming up next, I'm not going to reveal what that is yet. You got anything coming up that we want to plug before we get out of here?
I mean, not really on this side. If you're in the Milwaukee area, there's a fun typewriter thing happening on the first weekend in October. You can probably check out. Tip your bartenders well. Be nice to people. Support local. I don't know. Those are all the things.
Check us out at the Dead-Eyed Millennial Club on Instagram. Check us out at Dead-Eyed Millennial Film Club on YouTube. I have stuff that is happening, but I don't like to talk about it because it'll ruin it, and I won't do it anymore. Because I'll just get high on saying I'm doing it.
Woohoo!
But we've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up, so stay tuned. Thank you much, and I
love you.
That. But like whitest kids you know.
The whitest kids you know.
That'll be fun in the edit.